This is the Bloody Disgusting Podcast Network.
This Halloween, make sure to check out the rest of the Bloody Disgusting Podcast Network, including the Boo Crew, for interviews with your favorite horror stars. SCP Archives for weekly full-cast productions of the most popular and horrifying stories from the SCP Foundation. And Creepy, a horror podcast dedicated to terrifying creepypastas and scary stories. Find us at bloodydisgusting.com/podcast network or wherever you get your podcasts. Oh, hi. So this is not going to be a regular episode, right, Trace?
Right. This is actually going to be an old episode for some of you, but a new episode for most of you.
Yes. So what we're doing is we're giving you a special sampling of a old Patreon episode. Well, old in quotation marks because we recorded it back in May.
4 months old. It's less than a pregnancy term.
Oh my god. Which in no way addresses the film that you're about to listen to us talk about.
No. So this is going to be an older episode for some of our patrons, aka people that subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/horrorqueers. But for all of you others, it is going to be a brand new episode. And that is an episode on Netflix's The Perfection, which did come out in May of this year.
Yes, and one thing that people should know about the Patreon, if you're not a patron, is that we don't go through an extended plot recap because we assume that people have just watched the movie. So if you haven't rewatched The Perfection since it first came out, you may want to either rewatch it again or just check out a quick plot recap because we basically just dive right in.
Yeah, and Wikipedia has a good plot summary for y'all. So if you haven't seen it or you don't want to watch it again, which I don't know why you wouldn't because it's amazing.
Yeah.
Then, yeah, you can go read that plot summary. And it's just a taste of what we offer on a monthly basis. Again, we offer 2 full-length episodes a month on 2 recently released horror films and 2 mini-sodes a month on random topics that we or our patrons select for us. So if you like what you hear, you should check out our Patreon and subscribe, which means giving us money.
Absolutely. And just because you won't hear it at the end of the episode, next week, the Camp Marathon continues. We're going to be revisiting Wes Craven for the second time. We're going to be checking out 1991's People Under the Stairs. So I guess without further ado, enjoy our thoughts on The Perfection.
God, I loved it. I'll send you a copy. Bam! Bitch went down.
And welcome back to Horror Queers. It's your Patreon exclusive. We're talking bugs in skin. We're talking amputation. We're talking creepy sex dungeon chapel rooms. I'm Joe.
And I'm Trace, and we're also talking about a secret rape revenge movie.
Yes, we are. We are talking about The Perfection, the film that took the world by storm at Fantastic Fest last year and has now dropped on Netflix, which means regular people can see it.
I know. But hey, so I don't know what you thought about this movie yet. Like, you know how I thought about it because I reviewed it for Bloody. I've been gushing about it for 8 months.
Literally gushing,
almost as much as Logan Browning's, like, hand stump.
Oh yeah, spoilers by the way.
Spoiler alert, by the way. Yeah, sorry. A secret rape revenge movie. We're gonna spoil the fuck out of this movie, but it's gonna be good. But I'm very curious, Joe. So, okay, what did you like it? Did you love it? Did you hate it?
Okay, so you can't get mad at me for this. I think I've told you many times before, I'm very susceptible to hype. I have a tendency to overblow things. I was really nervous that was the case for this, that it had just been built up too much. And I really liked it.
Oh, good. No, honestly, okay, so
I was trying to drag that out for as long as possible to see if you would be like, oh no.
I thought you might be doing that, which is why I didn't say anything to give you that fucking pleasure. But no, so honestly, I was less worried about the hype getting to you than I was worried about the sexual politics and like the secret rape stuff getting to you.
Oh, I mean, yeah, I ended up having to have a big long conversation with Brian, my husband, about it afterwards.
Did he watch it?
he parachuted in right when Logan Browning was having her freak out and then chopped off her hand. So he came in pretty much at the best part he possibly could have, and it was amazing to watch his reaction.
Did you watch the trailer for this movie?
So I didn't. I went into this as cold as possible. I had seen 2 stills, the image that was released of them both playing the cello, and I had seen another one with Allison Williams that looked like she was hiking, and everyone had said, don't look at anything, try not to watch the trailer, don't read anything, and whatever you do, just go along with this movie. So in my mind, I was like, okay, this has something to do with her camping, and she plays the cello.
Okay, so have you watched the trailer then between you watching the movie and now?
I have, and I'm so glad that I didn't watch it.
So here, it does a very good job of not spoiling too much, but the problem is it does spoil that cleaver scene.
Yeah, which is dumb. The scene is not dumb. Spoiling it is dumb.
Well, but that's the thing. If you're going to spoil anything from this movie, arguably that's probably the least spoilery thing you can do.
It really is in the first... It's in, the first third of the film?
Well, so here's the thing. So
you clocked it, didn't you?
I did. I clocked it. No, so I thought this movie was firmly like 3 30-minute acts. You know, the first 30 minutes, cleaver.
It's what it feels like.
Yeah, second 30 minutes, then the rewind for, you know, when it's revealed that they're working together. Last 30 minutes, their revenge. The cleaver is the 40-minute mark of this 85-minute movie without credits.
Yeah, when you were saying the second part ending and the third part beginning, I was like, no, I think that's only when there's about 10 or 12 minutes left.
It is, and that's the thing. So I remembered the second half of the movie being the last 2/3 of the movie. And so, yeah, I thought the cleaver was the 30-minute mark, and I was clocking, and I was like, fuck, like, it's 40 minutes in, and the movie's basically halfway over by that point.
But it also is comprised of the first 2 parts, because this film is broken up into 4 different chapters, and the first 2 parts are up to the cleaver.
Right. And anyway, but so the trailer just spoiled that moment, and so that's why whenever I was, like, you know, tweeting about it, writing about it, I was like, look, it's, all things considered, probably the best possible trailer this movie could have gotten.
Yeah, I mean, kudos to that editor, but having watched it after the fact, I was like, I would have been mad. I would have been so mad. To me, it wasn't even that. It was the bugs in her arm. I didn't want to know.
Okay.
I just wanted... I would have been fine with her being like, I'm dying, something's wrong, what's going on? And even like her puking on the bus would have been fine. But seeing that actually coming out, because that was such a genuine surprise. I was like, holy fuck, this movie is body horror.
Well,
yes!
but that's the thing though. So if you do that and you stop it with there, then you're marketing it as this bug movie, which it's not. I mean, it is, but that's the thing. This movie is like 4 different things. And I mean, could you imagine this going to theaters?
I think we need to hit a pause for a moment.
Right. Sorry.
We are going to bounce all over the place here. Do we want to try to adopt any kind of structure? Like initial impressions or something? Because I have so many questions.
No, for sure. Okay. So, listeners, 6 minutes into this podcast, we're talking about The Perfection, released May 24th, 2019 on Netflix, and it is 90 minutes with credits. Without credits, you're looking at 85 minutes.
It is a tight film.
It is. And it feels longer to me, but
it does.
Not in a bad way. It feels longer in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
So, as of now, this has 39 reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, 82% positive, but an average score of it's like just under 7 out of 10. So it's not as high as I would hope, but again, considering the subject matter, it makes sense. No audience score, Metacritic, no user score, but there is a Metacritic score of a 60 out of 100 based on 11 reviews. So it was directed by Richard Shepard, who this is the funny thing. So the creators of this movie really come from TV.
A lot of TV.
Well, so Richard Shepard, his first big film that he did was The Matador, which is not the Pedro Almodovar movie, obviously, but
it's the Pierce Brosnan one.
Pierce Brosnan, Greg Kinnear movie, which I've never seen, but apparently it's like not that bad. Like it's actually a pretty good movie.
But it's a comedy.
It is. Well, it's like
action comedy.
I think it's a dark comedy.
Okay.
So,
is that the one where he's trying to retire?
I think so.
Yeah,
I mean, again, I haven't seen it, whatever it is. But watching this makes me want to... I'm sure it won't be as good as this, but it makes me want to go seek it out. But he also directed the pilot for Ugly Betty.
For which he won an Emmy, apparently.
And Ugly Betty, if you've never seen it, everyone, it's only 4 seasons. It's fucking fantastic.
Really good.
It made America Ferrera, and it ends... It has some struggles in the second season, much like Desperate Housewives did, which is like they were kind of on around the same time, but ends perfectly. It's great. And he directed the pilot for Ringer, the one-season wonder Sarah Michelle Gellar CW show.
Mm-hmm. We'll come back to that in a moment.
We will come back to that in a
his other
moment.
credits.
And then the pilot for Salem, WGN Salem, which...
Oh, I like that show.
Have you seen it to completion?
No, I think I've only seen the first 2 seasons.
Okay, so I think it's only 3.
Mm-hmm.
Season 2 is a Lucy Lawless season. It's fucking... Season 1, I had issues with. Like, I was kind of like, oh, like, I hate this lead character. She's not likable.
Oh, she's so unlikable.
She's bad. But the thing is, they bring in Lucy Lawless in season 2, and then they make that lead character likable.
Good on them.
And it works. And then season 3 is great, but man, if you want... Like, it got canceled, but they ended it. Like, they gave it a proper ending. And man, if it doesn't end with one of the, like, most downery, like for half the characters it's like a happy ending, but for the other half of the characters it's like the most downer ending. I highly recommend watching it. It's 3 13-episode seasons, really good.
Well, it is about the Salem witch trials, so there is an unhappy ending for a bunch of people in that story.
Imagine this, it's like the Salem witch trials, like, you know, a serious drama mixed with Spartacus, mixed with Lifetime, mixed with kind of what this movie is. I mean, it's very similar. Like it revels in like trashiness.
Well, and I feel like that's what you're highlighting. Again, we haven't seen The Matador, so we can't comment on that, but bringing it back to TV Ringer with Sarah Michelle Gellar playing twins and its trashy nighttime soap deliciousness. All of these things have in common with them. There's a certain camp aesthetic. There's a really strong, interesting female lead, genre mismatching or mishmashing.
It's okay. I'm not going to edit that out.
I don't care. I have also been drinking. How many glasses of wine deep are we in right now?
I'm 3 glasses of wine in, but I have 2 glasses at the ready. And by 2 glasses, I mean there's 2 glasses in 1 glass.
Means he's got his Big Joe on the side. And I'm not talking about myself. That's a Cougar Town reference. Oh my God, we're all over the place.
Ah, yay. No, I know. It's okay. It's okay. It'll be fine. Yes. No, so you're right. So moving on to the writers, though. So here's the thing. So Richard Shepard, the director, also was one of 3 writers on this movie.
Yes.
Now, the other 2 writers are Nicole Snyder and Eric Carmelo. Nicole Snyder and Eric Carmelo, I believe, are frequent writing partners.
Yes, they write everything together. If you look at their credits, they're listed together on every single credit.
Now, they've both written on Supernatural together. I know that Eric Carmelo, well, they both wrote on this show called Midnight Texas, which was an adaptation of a Charlaine Harris series of novels, like Charlaine Harris being the woman who wrote the True Blood books.
Yes, Jeffrey Reddick was on that show as well.
Oh, yes. Okay. Jeffrey Reddick, by the way, everyone, is the screenwriter for Final Destination.
Mm-hmm. And a very lovely man on Twitter.
Very great. And he's also gay. Eric Carmelo, also gay. Okay, so they also created... Well, Eric Carmelo created Ringer, but him and Nicole Snyder wrote on Ringer.
A bunch of episodes.
And a bunch of episodes. And that's where Richard Shepard came in. So they all basically... That show got canceled in 2013, 2014. And...
Because of that, we have the perfection.
Because of that... So, that's my thing. I'm like, you know what? As much as I would kill to have a second season of Ringer, it led to the perfection.
There we go.
I'm kind of okay with.
Yeah. Every once in a while, I won't lie, this is me revealing my narcissism. Every once in a while, I'll go back to my site, which is queerhorrormovies.com, and I, for shits and giggles, will reread my recaps of the first season of Ringer because it brings me a lot of joy.
Listeners, if you never watched Ringer, if you ever start watching it, it's 1 season, it's like 20, 24 episodes, whatever. The first third of it is kind of rough because it doesn't fully embrace how stupid it is.
It doesn't know what it is.
It doesn't know what it is.
Serious.
It is. And then about a third of the way through, about the time the redheaded friend disappears.
Oh my God, Big Red, I love you. It goes batshit crazy. Kind of like this movie.
And there's like a Wild Thing subplot. It literally just embraces its campiness and its stupidity and how ridiculous it is, and it goes for it.
Introduced me to Zoe Deutsch, who I now love and absolutely hated on that show.
Yeah, no, great. Yeah, so, and Sarah Michelle Gellar, again, getting to play 2 roles, one a bitch, one like a waif.
And you spend the entire season waiting for them to meet, and they fucking do, but
in the
only
season
for the
finale.
Last episode. It's so disappointing. You're like, put them together.
Anyway, so spoilers, by the way, if you've never seen it, but that's how it ends.
No, there's no spoilers. It's camptacular. It's like, get yourself a vat of wine and just marinate and watch Ringer.
It's so good. So, moving back to the perfection, we really only got 4 players in this movie. Sorry, I was drinking my wine.
You have to leave that in.
I know. We only have 4 players in this movie. First, we got Allison Williams as Charlotte. Now, Allison Williams, as many of you may know, she was Marnie on Girls, and she was in Get Out as, what was her name? Was it Rose?
Yes.
Rose. Okay, go. She's also Kit Snicket in Lemony Snicket's Series of Unfortunate Events on Netflix, and she was great.
Sure.
Have you never seen it?
I watched a couple of episodes. It wasn't really for me.
Okay, well, I grew up reading those books, so I had a soft spot for them. But this movie knows that she was in Get Out, and it uses that to its advantage.
I saw a couple of reviews that said that this was like a symbiosis of her role on Girls and Get Out. And I thought that was an interesting perspective. I haven't seen Girls. I was never interested in Girls. Although we should also clarify that I think Richard Shepard directed a bunch of those episodes. So it's maybe not surprising that she is in this movie as a result.
Probably so. I watched the first season of Girls. I liked it. I know people have issues with Lena Dunham. And the show is insufferable in the sense that, like, the girls, for the most part, are insufferable. But it's also because they're very realistic.
Well, that's the point.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't like it, you don't like it. But the point of the show was that.
Well, and when Williams did Get Out, it was kind of refreshing, though, because her character on Girls is an insufferable, spoiled, privileged white girl. And granted, she kind of plays the same character in Get Out.
But you could say that the role that she's playing in The Perfection, so Charlotte feels... I think you're right. It does play on this notion that you know her character from Get Out to a certain extent. And as a result, when you watch her, you're immediately suspicious of her.
You are. Well, and that's the thing. And so the first 40 minutes of the movie, when she's not being insidious, because the first, 5 minutes, she's Black Swanning her.
Yeah. It's Suspiria.
Yeah. And by her, I mean Logan Browning, who we'll get to in a minute. But then she's just nice for the whole time until that cleaver comes out.
Mm-hmm.
So then you have Logan Browning as Lizzie. Now, Logan Browning is most notable for being in
Dear White People.
Yes, she's Tessa Thompson's replacement in the TV show of Dear White People. Tessa Thompson portrayed the character in the movie, but Logan Browning portrays her in the TV show. She was also
in... great, and
it's
everyone
good.
Should watch it.
I've only seen the first season.
Oh, the second season's almost better.
Really? I need to... It's like a 30-minute show. It's super easy to watch, but I need to rewatch the movie and probably just rewatch the show. Logan Browning was also in Bratz, the adaptation of the Doll line, with Janelle Parrish, who some of you may know as Mona from Pretty Little Liars.
No.
Some of you do. Don't lie. At me. No. Tell Joe that he needs to watch Pretty Little Liars. It's really good. It's a lot of horror elements in that show.
I'll have to watch it eventually for my YA podcast, so...
Oh, well, good luck. I've actually not watched the last season and a half.
Who could care? It was on for what,
7 years?
8 seasons?
7 years. Anyway, so those are your main 2 players, but then you've also got Steven Weber as Anton. Now, Steven Weber, apparently, I never watched the show, but he was on Wings, an NBC sitcom in the 90s.
Yes. Many years.
Yes, a TV show called Once and Again with Celia Ward on ABC, which my dad...
I love that one.
I never watched it, but my dad always referred to it as the dark show because he could never see what was happening because it was lit so darkly.
Interesting. You would like it. It's basically brothers and sisters and parenthood from the mid to late 90s.
Well, remember there was a show called... There was Once and Again and there was Now and Again.
Yes, Now and Again is the sci-fi one, and it's also really good.
Yes. Steven Weber is also Jack Torrance in the ABC miniseries of The Shining, and he also got a stiletto heel in his eye in Single White Female.
Right.
The last person I want to point out, though, is Elena Huffman as Paloma, who is Steven Weber's wife in the movie.
Yeah, I didn't know her.
Okay, so I didn't either, but okay, so she's in Smallville as Black Canary, she's in Supernatural as a character named Abaddon, and she became known for a TV show called Painkiller Jane in the mid-2000s, which I've never seen.
Okay.
But here's the thing. She looked like, sometimes, Ashley Judd, and she sometimes looked like Miranda Baccarin. Yes. So... Or, they had a baby together if women could have children together. Okay, I'm sorry. That was a really long run through the cast. But, Joe, read your plot summary, and then we can just dive into this shit head on.
Okay, so this is what IMDb is offering us, and kudos to them for not being super spoilery. When troubled musical prodigy Charlotte, Allison Williams, seeks out Elizabeth, Logan Browning, who we will refer to as Lizzie from now on, the new star pupil of her former school, the encounter sends both musicians down a sinister path with shocking consequences. That's it.
Okay.
I mean, that's I think what everyone is struggling with, and I haven't read your review, I've gone back and read a bunch of other people's reviews. It seems like what everybody is really struggling with is how much do you spoil of this movie? And can the movie even be spoiled to a certain extent? Like, this to me is one of the most interesting examples of a don't do anything with this movie until you've watched it. And I don't know, that's kind of fascinating since we talk so much about the importance of marketing.
Admittedly, I have not reread my review because I really don't like rereading my writing.
That's fair.
But I think I did not include any major plot points. I think I did basically like the beginning, like the Black Swan setup, and then basically said, that's it. That's all I'm going to tell you. And here's what this movie does well. Here's what it doesn't do well. Which, for me, it doesn't really do a lot that's not well. But, so do we want to, like, start from the beginning and move forward? Or do we want to cherry pick?
Why don't we try starting at the beginning and we'll see how we fare.
Okay. So, the setup is, okay, you got Allison Williams, you got Charlotte. Her mother dies. And she goes to Shanghai, China.
But there's clues in that pre-title sequence where you see her flashing between her current self, who's presumably late 20s, and a teenage version of herself who is screaming. So that's your first clue that it's not just that she's upset about her mom's death, but that she's also emotionally damaged, and maybe it has something to do with something that happened in her childhood.
Right. And I imagine as we go on, we're going to get more in depth into how the movie portrays mental illness and sexual abuse, but we'll hold off until we get there. But I do want to commend Allison Williams because she is fucking phenomenal in this movie, and she gets to play so many different layers of this character and basically different characters, and it's great.
Yeah. I will confess that I'm a bit more drawn to Logan Browning because I find her a more charismatic actress. I find her more emotive, and I just have more of a history with her, so I was more frequently drawn towards Lizzie.
So outside of Dear White People, though, what's your history with her?
Just that. But she blows me away on that show. Like, there is an episode that's her confronting her boyfriend or her, like, on-again, off-again love interest in a late episode of the second season that literally deserved a fucking Emmy. It's so good.
That's great. I imagine you might feel differently about Williams had you watched Girls.
Oh, I'm sure. Absolutely. I mean, this is one of those things, right? Like, we gravitate to the people that we know. I mean, it's why we gushed about Ringer for 5 fucking minutes, because it has a bunch of people that we know and we like and we feel kinship with. But I think this movie is savvy in casting very likable, very emotive, very charismatic actresses front and center, because I just find myself immediately invested in them, particularly when they start to get all flirtatious.
So I feel like the logline for this movie at Fantastic Fest, so this was a last minute edition of Fantastic Fest. So I feel it got added either the week of or the week before. It was opening night, so basically I was going to go see Halloween at its US premiere. And then it was either going to be this or another movie called In Fabric, which is about a killer dress. I don't know if you saw that at TIFF. Did it play at TIFF?
And it's good.
Okay. Didn't see it because I saw this instead.
Yeah, and sadly, In Fabric has not landed a distribution deal in the US, so no one can see it.
I know. It really sucks. I've heard it's really good. But the screening for this movie was half full because everyone wanted to go see In Fabric.
Yeah, and no one had heard of this, presumably.
Yeah, exactly. And well, it got bought by Netflix, I think, like 2 or 3 weeks after Fantastic Fest ended. But what I thought going into it was, okay, cello prodigy, jealous of the new one.
You thought it was going to be kind of like she's out to get the new one. Right?
Yeah. Which is
where all the Black Swan references are coming from.
Right. And maybe you could even say misery on some kind of level. But yeah, but right from the get-go, it kind of subverts your expectations because, they meet and, there's the whole... Actually, it's Browning that does a good job of this, though, because, Charlotte approaches Lizzie and, she's acting all nervous. And then Lizzie's basically just like, look, don't be nervous in front of me. I saw you when I was 9. You were 14. You were fucking great. I love you. And from there, it was just kind of... That immediately just kind of subverts your expectations. And then they're sitting there judging the new students in this school. And then they're having this kind of like graphically sexual conversation.
Well, yeah. And I think that's one of those interesting pieces because when you're watching this film, you're waiting for the shoe to drop. Like one of them is going to make a move. Like you're watching a horror film or a thriller film. So you're expecting some kind of violent act. Mm-hmm. And instead what we get is the two of them bonding over the fact that the parents of these two
students, they're
they're cheating on each other. And it immediately starts to give you this idea that, okay, there's something more. There's actually going to be a sexual component to this, especially then, of course, when, Lizzie leans over and you get
it makes me wet.
The close up, it makes me wet. And you're just like, oh, okay, this is going in a different place than I thought.
I have to ask. So when you're watching this, though, and you're like, okay, I get why Trace likes this movie.
Yes. I was on the couch with my pants off, and I was like, oh, I can see why Trace likes this movie.
It's two actresses. And granted, they're not even like good girl, like Disney actresses. They've both done R-rated material. But it's two actresses saying naughty things, being sexual. It's queer.
Oh, yeah. Like, I had to pause the movie so that I could DM you on Twitter and be like, you never said that this is gay.
Yeah. I mean, I was trying to keep a secret. I don't know.
It's so unexpected, right?
Yeah, it totally is. And it treats it, though, very naturally.
Yeah.
And even the same, I guess we're going to, well, okay, so before we get to their sex scene, though. So the film plants a seed with one of the men vomiting in the lobby.
Yes, it's described as potentially hemorrhagic fever from the Hunan border.
Watching it a second time, because I was worried to watch it a second time, because I was like,
what if it doesn't hold up?
If you give a perfect score to a movie, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Watching this for the first time it's crazy, because your expectations are constantly being blown.
Well, and you were in a theater with other people, so you got to react off of them.
Which, I know.
Anyway, sorry, keep going.
No, I don't envy anyone who had to watch this at home. Watching it, this is a crowd movie. Being able to watch this in a communal environment, like, is just the best way to watch it. But you can't do that because it's on Netflix, which sucks.
Well, or you have a viewing party and you invite a bunch of unsuspecting people over.
Yeah.
Okay, so what did you think when you saw that? Because I immediately, I literally have it in my notes. It says, hint, hint, after hemorrhagic fever.
On a second viewing, I still love it. I think there are plot holes, because here's the thing.
Sure.
We're to believe, that Charlotte has planned this whole thing.
Yes. But she conveniently did it with this kind of incident happening.
Yes. Also, they show her later in the bus Googling on her phone tourniquet, which means that she didn't really have it planned out. So I don't know. Well,
it was one of the issues that I kind of had when I came back to think about it, was how exactly did she come up with this plan? Because one of the things that stood out to me was how interesting it is that the beginning part of this film takes place in Shanghai. Like, that's a very unusual place to situate an English language, presumably intended for a mass market audience. So my spider sense immediately went off because I wondered why that decision was. And to me, part of it is driven by the idea that she wanted a failsafe to be able to say, oh, I don't speak the language, and also we're not surrounded by people who speak English that can help you. So that's how her plan was able to work in that regard. Now, the timing of this man having potentially hemorrhagic fever that looks exactly the same as the symptoms that Lizzie ends up coming down with. Yeah, sure. You know what? That's one of those, all right, let's just suspend our disbelief and go with it.
So that happens, and then they basically hook up.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the exchange between them, which I liked, though, of, Charlotte saying, oh, you're the first person I've been with, male or female.
Right.
Do you think that's the truth, or do you think that's a lie?
I didn't give it a lot of thought, but I don't know that there's any reason to lie in that. Like, her suggestion that she was taking care of her sick mom is true. And of course, we also find out that she was institutionalized
raped
for a certain period of time.
Oh, well, I mean, I guess it wasn't her first time because she was raped also, but...
Yes.
Yeah.
But I mean, presumably this was the first time she did something
consensually.
of her own volition. Yeah.
Right.
I did also want to jump back quickly to the staging or the editing around their dual performance.
Ooh.
Because it's their first duet.
Mm-hmm.
It also anticipates the final shot, but it also, again, intertwines this idea of music and sexuality.
Mm-hmm. I did want to also point out, though, I'm assuming that the composer of the film did the cello pieces. That's, again, an assumption.
You mean like the music, or?
Yeah. Well, I mean, so the composer of this film is Paul Hasslinger. So he did the music in the film, but the piece that they play when they're doing their duet comes back into play non-diegetically at the end of the film.
Oh, interesting.
But what I liked about it was because the Paul Hasslinger, he did the scores for Underworld 1, 3, and 4. Resident Evil The Final Chapter, and Crank,
Oh, yeah. Okay.
and Turistas.
That is a wild... I mean, it's all kind of a kind, I guess, but Crank is kind of the odd one out. There is an interesting side note about So I tracked down an interview that Matthew Monagle, I don't know if you follow
Monagle!
him.
No, he writes for the Austin Chronicle.
Oh, yes, right. Okay.
I've met him, and he's great, and he loved this movie.
Yeah, so he did an interview with the director and the screenwriter, so he had a chance to talk to them. And in the interview, they talk about how the girls are actually playing an originally composed cello piece. So that the music that they're playing, there's two different pieces, and they were created originally for this film. Apparently, they're ridiculously difficult, and it actually is the two actresses who are doing it, except for a couple of the close-up finger work.
I confess that I had the opportunity to interview Allison Williams, and my laziness in Fantastic Fest made me say no. I really wish I would have, though.
See, I always would rather interview directors and writers as opposed to actors.
Oh, no. I'm all about the actors. I would rather... Well, it's like when I listen
You're
to
a
commentary...
starfucker.
No. I just prefer their opinion. Like, I would rather listen to a cast commentary than I would to a director commentary.
Oh, see, I want to know the behind-the-scenes stuff, but I enjoy listening to an audio commentary from actors because they're usually kind of fun, but
Yeah.
I find they don't know the back history. So.
They don't, but, I mean, whatever. So, okay. They fuck.
And it's hot.
It's really good. It's really good. And it's like intercut between the cello playing. Editing's really good. So, then we have our first kind of like, when Lizzie is sick. I'm sorry, she's really hungover.
Mm-hmm.
And Charlotte gives her, quote-unquote, ibuprofen.
And also, more booze, which we find out later counteracts with the pills.
So, okay, I have to ask, did you think something was up during this? Or had you bought into her act?
As I mentioned off the top, I was questioning Allison Williams because of the relationship that she was bringing. She was acting very Get Out-ish to me, so I was kind of like, I don't know about this, but at this particular junction, I didn't think it was anything too serious, but then there is that visual cue when she notices that Lizzie has the music note tattoo, and that set off another alarm. Like, oh, okay, I don't know what this means, but she obviously takes notice of it, and it's meaningful in some capacity.
On a second watch, they focus on that tattoo a lot.
They do. They really do.
In the first hour, which I didn't really pay attention to on my first viewing. I mean, again, from what I remember, it was 8 months ago. So yeah, there's that. And then they get on a bus.
Yeah. So we're now into the second part, Detour. This is the best part of the movie to me. This entire sequence.
I mean, I think it's the most effective at making you feel... If you're calling this a horror movie, this is the most horrific part of the movie.
Mm-hmm. I feel like it also does a really good job of just playing on people's fears. Like, people don't like to travel. People don't like foreign food. They worry about getting sick in different countries. And this really just cranks that up to an 11 or a 12.
Because there's a couple shots of like the markets and that they're cutting up, raw animals, and it looks gross. And, Allison Williams is like, oh, do you want to eat food? Like, you've had this quote-unquote ibuprofen. You're hungover. Like, hair of the dog. Let's eat some food. And
just to clarify, we don't think that food is disgusting. It's the way that it is visually depicted in the film.
Oh, no. I want to go to China or Japan because I'm the one that's going to eat the live octopus.
Yeah, you're
going to
eat the necks and all that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Totally into it. But, the film frames it as maybe a little shady.
Yeah, you're clearly meant to be thinking about the man that they saw as she's getting ill, because to me, this is where I said, oh, wow, okay, I wonder if this is a Contagion film, and I didn't know about it, or if this is going to turn into some kind of zombie film, and I don't know. And that's one of the strengths of this movie, is you're just like, what kind of horror movie is this? Like, your mind is racing trying to classify each incident or set piece, because the film knows that so it's saying, okay, we're going to get them by getting them to think that this is, oh, she's sick with whatever that guy had. And then, of course, they're just like, no, it's a hard right turn.
Yeah. So, okay, they're on the bus, Lizzie gets sick. Now, I commend this movie also for delving into something that is not often brought up in horror movies or movies in general, is...
people shitting themselves?
Yes.
Yeah.
The second that she says, I'm going to shit myself, I actually got kind of scared, because that's a very real fear.
Yeah.
And it's embarrassing and it's so like upsetting.
Oh, yeah. Like, you're feeling for Lizzie and you're so concerned. Like, oh, God, what is going to happen? Is she going to do it on this bus? Is she going to be mortified in front of all these people? And, you know, you throw in this language barrier, which, of course, as North Americans, we, you know, if people don't understand the language, just say it again and louder. That seems to be the de facto way of cutting through. And that's why this whole sequence, I think, plays so well, because they're really preying on your fears of, like, what if you had to shit yourself and you were on a moving bus and no one spoke English? Like, what you gonna do?
And because Browning does such a good job of, like, diverting your attention to her that you're not really paying attention to Williams, even though she's doing a very good job of, like, being empathetic towards Browning.
And it's really still like you're seeing things from Charlotte's perspective. Like, this is still, even though it's happening to Lizzie, you're still very much in Charlotte's shoes, which is why it's such a good twist when it turns out that she's the one who's concocted this whole nefarious scheme.
And they've known each other 24 hours, but like you actually feel like, I mean, if you want to bring like queerness into it, I mean, obviously, you know, they're together at this point. But it's kind of a sweet love story between them. And obviously, like,
sure.
By the end, it makes sense. But even this, like, while Logan Browning's like, I'm going to shit myself, for Charlotte to be like, it's fine. I've taken care of my mother. You know, I've been through this with her before, like when she's wiping the shit off her legs. And it's just really sweet in a weird, kind of gross way.
And having that pre-title sequence where we learn that she was actually taking care of her mom sells the lie all the better. Like, oh, she does know what she's doing. Oh, she is a sympathetic figure because she's already gone through something like this. So you totally buy that she actually cares for Lizzie.
All this character development in an 85-minute movie. Insane. So, then we get to the vomit, and there's maggots in it.
Yeah, oof.
This is a complaint that I read actually on reviews, though, is that the CGI is subpar. And I agree. But it doesn't it doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me because the movie's not built around special effects. And it's clearly a lower budget film.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, I was not bothered either by a lot of the visual effects work. I didn't actually think that this looked that bad. Part of me thought that they looked kind of alien-ish, like it was a weird new strain, so I was willing to accept that it looked a little bit different than I might have expected.
I mean, the only thing that looked bad to me was when she has to chop off her hand and like they're crawling on her hands. That's when it looked the most cartoonish to me. The maggots and the vomit didn't look that bad to me.
Yeah, the spiders, just not as convincing, but still effective.
No, for sure. Okay, so they get dropped off, they go, and boom, you know what you have to do.
It very much like the ruins. This was giving me all kinds of ruins feels, and I'm not going to lie, the hair on my arms was standing straight up. I got a sweat on my neck and my forehead. I was so into this.
Yeah. So, okay, so when she pulls out that cleaver.
And you're just like, where the fuck did she get that cleaver from?
It's so, but it's like a fucking Mary Poppins bag.
Yeah.
But, like, what did you think? Like, I mean, it comes out of, it's kind of funny.
Oh, it's hysterical. The minute that she pulled it out, literally all I could do was like, what?
Yeah.
Oh, and then it was 100%, oh, she has concocted this entire fucking scheme. But then I love it because you're thinking, oh, okay, well, they're going to have to find a way to let us know how. You don't expect them to literally rewind the movie.
All right, what did that remind you of?
I don't know.
I mean, explicitly a movie rewinds for you.
Be Kind Rewind?
Funny Games.
I haven't seen it.
Oh, well, spoiler alert. There is
I do know about that, yeah.
Okay, so yeah. But in that movie it's different because a character literally picks up a remote and rewinds the movie for you.
And changes what happens.
Yeah, and changes what happens.
Yeah.
This one, it's just rewinding for you and showing you like what happened, which again, it didn't have to do the rewinding motion. It could have just said like 10 hours earlier and like just gone back to the moment. I
found it very effective here and then not as effective the second time later on in the film.
I've read that too, and people were like, well, the rewinding gets old after a while, and I'm like, they only rewind twice.
Well, technically twice.
Yeah, no, it's twice.
No, sorry, it's 3 times. Because
there's only a rewind motion twice in this movie.
Oh, maybe it's because they cut back to the kitchen, and then they cut back to the stump. And I was like, no, don't do 2 flashbacks in one single scene.
I guess that makes sense. Yeah. But the actual rewinding
Right,
technique
just
is
twice.
done twice.
Okay.
And the second one is like at the 75-minute mark. So you've got the 40-minute mark and the 75-minute mark.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway.
Oh, yeah. It's not like it's doing it all the fucking time. God. This film is audacious in the way that it's trying and experimenting with a bunch of really interesting film techniques. So for people to be like, oh, the rewinding gets a little bit, like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
When was the last time you saw something like this? Like, give this film some fucking cred. Jesus.
I mean, again, like, for me, this is a 5-star movie because it literally is, it's such a fun experience. Even on a second viewing, I'm just like, oh my God. But it's also a movie where I want to show this movie to people.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like, watching someone else watch this movie is probably more entertaining than the movie itself.
Yeah,
but
like, you just sit there and watch them while they watch it, and you're just clocking their reactions. Like, what?
Oh, I can't wait to show my parents. I'm so excited. But it's just so fun. And for a movie about what it's about, it's like, saying something. So, okay.
All right, so she chops off that fucking hand, rewind. We find out that, yes, Charlotte has planned this whole fucking thing. We don't know why, but we're brought back up to the present moment.
I did want to point out just really quickly that the drug that she uses is called, levetiracetam, which is an anticonvulsant which is used to treat seizures. And it causes hallucinations and nausea, which alcohol may
exacerbate.
Yeah. So that's the whole reasoning. Which
and
again
sounds like it comes from the fucking Harry Potter universe.
Did you laugh though when it cut to her fucking Googling tourniquet on her phone?
Yes.
I thought that was so in the theater that got a huge laugh.
Like, girl, if you're gonna make someone chop their hand off, I mean, do your homework beforehand. But I think it speaks to the idea that she really, she...
On the fly. It's all on the fly.
She knows that she has to do something to get Lizzie away, out of the influence of...
Anton.
Yeah. But anyway, we know that she has to get her away from there. Not at this point, but later. But it's clear, that she sort of had an idea, okay, I'm going to drug her with these pills, but I don't know what else I'm going to do.
I mean, that's really kind of how it comes across, but it just kind of works out for her.
Yeah.
Then we cut to Anton and his wife, Paloma. And they've taken in a new student.
Zhang Li. Who presumably was the winner of the contest that we saw in Shanghai.
Right, and that happens, and then Lizzie knocks on the door. I think it's, 3 weeks later?
Yes.
I think it's 3 weeks later. So it's, and her vacation was supposed to be for 2 weeks, so it's a week after her vacation was supposed to have ended. And they're like,
what are you doing here? But also, can you leave? Okay, thanks.
Okay, that scene, though, where they have to tell her, we can't keep you here. This is in a convalescence house.
Oh my God, that line. That fucking line. Oh, sorry. I didn't mean for it to come out that way. Bitch.
That seals her fate. This movie does such a good job of making them so despicable that it doesn't I mean, you want Paloma to have a worse death than what she does.
To be honest, I just kind of kept forgetting about her. She wasn't super memorable for me.
Yeah, I mean, it makes total sense. Well, because she's not the main villain. It's the man. The man is the villain in this movie.
Yes, but I will also bring something else in when we get there.
Yeah, that's fine.
I did also like how in this scene, Lizzie knows everything. Because I hate it when we have horror movies and they're like, I don't know what happened. I cut off my arm, but I don't know why or whatever. She's just like, this bitch did it to me because she's fucking jealous of my career and she wanted to get back at me. And you're like, yes, exactly. Kudos to being smart.
At this point, she still is angry at Charlotte. She doesn't know the truth yet. She's still angry at Charlotte. So she's, they're not in cahoots yet.
No.
So Anton and Paloma kick her ass out because she's useless to them.
I did like how she said, I will compose, I will teach, I will clean up. And they were just like, we're going to need you to leave.
But here's the thing, though. So knowing what the end of this movie is, what she is saying that she will do is, I will help you rape these girls.
She wouldn't think of it that way at this point, though.
You're right. So then she goes and seeks out Charlotte.
I could have done with the sequence being just a touch longer and really play on the idea.
Home invasion.
To me, it was so strange that Charlotte, did she just expect Lizzie to come and track her down?
It's unclear. She just goes back home. honestly, why didn't she just take her home and just be like, look, this is what's going on. We were raped. We were fucked up children.
Or even have her be sitting outside of the academy so that after Lizzie gets kicked out, she comes out and she gets into the car and she's like, you were right.
Yeah. It isn't entirely clear. But I think maybe that speaks to she didn't have a fucking plan.
Yeah. She just had to do something to get her kicked out. Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, it's not the movie's job to be 100% faultless in every fucking plot development. That's not what we're saying. It's just more that, you know, these little things were kind of like, so what was the plan? How did you think it was going to work out? In this case, I like the idea that I thought, okay, we're getting a gear shift again. This is now going to be, the movie's going to switch. We're going to get into Lizzie's perspective and she's going to be coming for revenge. So I thought we were moving into like the mutilation revenge territory. So I just wanted that to play out just a touch longer. Yeah.
I mean, no, I would have liked a really cool home invasion sequence, and this is probably a 2-minute sequence. It does go through it very quickly.
Very fast, yeah.
And again, we're talking about an 85-minute movie. They could have made it go a little bit longer, but I think it's because they know what we're about to have to face.
Yeah. And for pacing, right? Like, you want to keep it up. Like, it's already a little bit slow when Lizzie is convalescing. So you want to get back into the drama, like
and that's what I mean. I'm not expecting you to go watch this again tomorrow, but I'm intrigued to see what you think of this on a second viewing, knowing what it is. It still holds up for me because I'm still watching the machinations of the narrative, and it's fascinating. But yeah, so this, you know, foot on her face, cut to black, boom. Lizzie brings Charlotte to the school, the Bashoff school, and shows her to Steven Weber.
Yep.
What we have now is a conversation between Charlotte and Anton. And, you know, watching it again, I was like, he's acting like everything's fine. And it's like, is it because he doesn't think his raping was bad? Is it because he thinks that she forgot about it? What is it?
To me, it was that he doesn't act on her until he thinks that she's a threat. But as he explains here, but also later when she's, you know, proper foot cuffed up, and even grosser when you think, oh, they dressed her and styled her while she was unconscious.
Wait, I want to point this out though. So I didn't notice it until she's chained to this chair. This movie is shot beautifully.
Oh my gosh, yes.
It is a gorgeous, gorgeous film. Yes. But this final, like, her chained to the chair is gorgeous. And she's this like, yellow halo glow around her. It's amazing.
Oh, yeah. The set design of the chapel as a room is really great, but particularly the backdrop of the stage performance area.
Yes!
Which, it looks not only like a chapel, but also it kept reminding me of the light up mirror that women use to apply makeup.
Yes. I mean, the vanity is like the area, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but like that on a grand scale, which I love this idea because the whole purpose of this space is to expose flaws and imperfections, or rather perfections. So I love this idea that it's really shining this giant fucking spotlight on these poor people who are in danger of one single mistake and you are going to be sexually assaulted.
Okay. So this is when we get the flashback, though. This is when we get the flashback to her.
It's where it presumably begins for Charlotte. So she's gotten good enough that she is allowed to perform in this space, which we are told is only for the highest caliber students of the academy.
And if she messes up, the 2 servant men of some sort will come in and rape her.
I believe that they are former pupils.
Okay.
Because at one point, Anton says, it happened to me, it happened to These, and it happened to Jeffrey. So that to me was the interesting piece, because Anton also talks about having inherited the school from his father and his father before him. So this isn't just, like, Anton is not the sole victim, and you can look at this film as intergenerational trauma. Presumably, all of these men have also been raped.
So, this is when the movie shifts. And
well, this is when it takes a new shift.
A new shift. I mean, it becomes the 4th of 4 movies that it is.
Yes.
It's a secret rape revenge film. And we have discussed rape revenge before. You know, we did the Last House on Left episode a couple months ago. It's not an easy genre to watch, and it's not a movie that it's not a genre that you just like show people.
Mm-hmm.
So I can only imagine what unsuspecting viewers who put this on expecting a Black Swan cello movie
And suddenly end up with this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I as a cisgender white male who has never been sexually abused, I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the catharsis of watching. I know. But I enjoyed the catharsis of watching these two women come together,
Right.
you know, strengthen each other through their mutual trauma,
Mm-hmm.
and kill this. Well, actually, I'm sorry, not kill this fucker,
him. Yeah.
but torture him and kill his partner, who
Yes.
was aiding and abetting them.
Yeah, all the enablers die, and the person who was perpetuating these acts suffers arguably maybe a worse fate.
So, but we haven't gotten to
Yeah, I know.
Lizzie's turn. But what do you think of this? Like the reveal? Oh, she was raped. She's getting revenge.
Okay, so this to me was where the film, it didn't lose me per se, but it didn't deliver the expectation that I kind of expected. So
What were you expecting?
I thought that it was going to be more ritualistic and cultish.
Okay.
So in hindsight, the thing that I ended up comparing this film most to was Martyrs.
Okay.
So about shifts and turns, a focus on two females coming together and finding strength to come back and combat their abusive narrative. But also this idea that these, just because the way the language is constructed when Anton talks about it. So here's some of the language. Mistakes discredit the academy to achieve the perfection. And it's always the perfection. It's not perfection. And they're capitalized because I was watching with subtitles. He talks about if you achieve the perfection, then you get closer to God, and that you are a chosen vessel if you make it to play in the chapel. So to me, all of these ideas, I thought that they were worshiping something bigger. So when it came out that it was a rape cello academy, I was underwhelmed. Sounds like the completely incorrect way to say it, because it's like, oh, it's just rape. But
I
it's
totally get what you're saying.
So it's one of those things where I guess I thought that it was going to be otherworldly, and when I found out that it was just a terrible, it's a prestigious academy that's abusing their privilege by luring vulnerable women and maybe men, and then sexually abusing them for presumably many, many, many years. Because that was the other thing, is Lizzie was still living in that house, and she's also a late 20-somethings girl. So the abuse doesn't seem to end, or they're so indoctrinated into it that they become accomplices, as you suggested. So that is obviously horrifying. But I just thought that it was going to be, I thought they were worshipping a devil god or an alien or something.
I actually think that I thought the same thing on my first viewing, but because it subverted my expectations, which subversion of expectations and not meeting expectations, it's a thin line,
Yeah. Because, if a film doesn't do what you want it to do, then that's really more on you. Unless you're reading it, it's leading you to believe a certain thing, and then it's saying, nope, In this case, it's saying, that they're trying to get revenge. You're not exactly sure why. And in this case, you find out it's because they were systematically abused for many, many years.
So, and then we get to this. So then we get to him saying, you're going to play this fucking song. And if you fuck up, it's not going to be you we rape. It's going to be this little girl.
Yeah.
And this is where some of the criticisms I've seen have been is exploiting sexual abuse and rape. And it's not responsible in how it handles these things.
I don't understand that criticism, because he's so clearly a sadistic villain.
Yes.
The film is not advocating for this, and you are clearly meant to side with Charlotte in this moment and say, he is a monster. He will harm this little girl. I'm being put in a terrible situation.
Which, again, her and Lizzie are in on it. She knows that she's going to get out of the situation.
She maybe doesn't know that Zhang Li won't get injured, but we know that she's flexible and adaptable enough that she can work on the fly. So maybe they had something else cooked up.
I think maybe the argument comes from you're using sexual abuse as a plot twist, as a hinge
But that shit happens. Like, are you going to go after, what is it, Spotlight, and say, oh, well, you're using, the church's sexual assault of men as a newspaper story?
I think, though, with that, though, like, that's different because it's not used to, like, shock. It's not used to...
Yeah, it's not exploitative.
Yeah, I personally do not think this movie is exploitative.
I think it's exploitation-y in the way that it adheres to the conventions of exploitation films. One of the things that comes out in Monagle's interview with the director and the screenwriters, so our director, Richard Shepard, he mentions that he showed the other two writers, Carmelo and Snyder, as well as the two actresses. He showed them two films by Park Chan-wook.
One's The Handmaiden, right?
Yeah, it's the same director.
Yeah, but like The Handmaiden, and what's the other film?
Oh, sorry, Oldboy.
Okay.
So if you've seen either of those two films, they both deal explicitly with these same identical themes. Slight spoilers for both those films.
Great movies, by the way.
Yeah, they're both fantastic movies. And the same thing with Martyrs. Martyrs is about using sadism and privilege and power to achieve really duplicitous, nefarious goals. So at the end of the day, if you think about this film, because really to me, this film is a combination of North American ideals about the horror thriller genre, but then also really drawing influence from those Eastern exploitation kind of films. And to me, that's also why the first half of the film is set in Shanghai, because it's that nod to the inspiration of where this film is coming from.
That makes sense. That makes total sense.
But I mean, if you want to look at it, like if you were a woman or a man who has survived, sexual assault or anything where you've been abused, it would be hard to watch this movie. Like, it's not an easy film in that regard. I don't think it leans into it as much as it could have, even as much as those other films do.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, to say that the film is using it for cheap entertainment purposes, that to me suggests that you didn't watch the film because you missed the messaging. Like, the messaging is that this guy is horrible, and that's why they're doing it, because they have to stop him.
So Thies and Jeffrey are going to essentially rape her because so she plays the song perfectly.
No, she doesn't. She fucks up at the end.
Oh, I'm sorry. And Anton goes, all right, cool. Zhang Li can go away. I was gonna rape her. She doesn't have the fucking tattoo. We're gonna rape you. And Thies and Jeffrey are gonna rape her. But then Lizzie says, I'm gonna stay. I'm gonna be here and watch this.
Also, I'm gonna use the stump.
Okay, so
it's just so grody. Although I'll confess, by this point I was like, no, Lizzie's, come on. I already knew Lizzie was fine. I was like, she's not going to use that stump.
Okay, so you knew she was in on it by this point.
Yeah.
Okay, see, I was very much like, oh my god, she's gonna fuck her with that stump. And I love that line. You know me and the word cunt, but when she's like, can your cunt handle this? I was like, oh my god, give it to me. I mean, not like actually give it to me, but like give it to me.
Right. You want to get fisted by a stump. That's what I hear you saying.
No, I'm just like, no, give me like her fucking her with the stump. But actually, I'm sorry. But we also forget the fact that has wires on her hand, and she's pulled backwards as like the bottom of her like stage drops out beneath her, and it's like this very elaborate saw type mechanism.
It is. I wish it had been almost a little more theatrical. It didn't hit as much visually as I would have liked. To me, it was kind of like, oh, they lean her back, and like I kind of wanted to have something. Oh god, this sounds so fucking.
No, I know.
I wanted her to be like, they've got something where like her legs get pulled out, and
like
it's like this horrifying
or
contraption or something. Like,
I get that, but the overhead shot though of like when she's pulled back and she's screaming and writhing in pain, like it's very effective.
Yeah,
and
it's properly terrifying.
And maybe that's the movie saying, look, we know we're going really far, so we're not going to go that far.
Yeah,
which I get, but also I get what you're saying, where it's like, I kind of wish it would have just gone there.
A little bit. Because at this point, it feels like this film hasn't pulled punches. It's very much going for it. And in this regard, it did feel like, okay, but we're not going to go there. Because, that poison just kicks in right at that time. So
Yes, which again, super convenient for the plot. So yeah, then Thies and Jeffrey die from poison. And then we get our second and only other rewind of the movie. And it's revealed that yes, previously when Lizzie invaded Charlotte's house and she had her foot in her face, for some reason she immediately accepted like, oh yeah, you did help me.
Yeah.
It's suspension of disbelief, whatever.
Sure.
If you're into it, you're still into it. It's fine.
I do think the dialogue that they give Charlotte for that section where she talks about, I just had to do something, anything. And then Lizzie walks it through and she says, you're right. They did reject me. They don't care about me. It did take this to bring it to it. And you're kind of like, I mean, did it have to go this far? But yeah, sure. Okay.
Okay, but this is a soap opera of a movie.
Yes.
And that's why I buy into it.
Yeah.
From the get-go, like, there are people that don't understand this type of heightened reality in film, and I totally get it. I sympathize because I'm like, I wish you got it because it's fun.
Are they the people who also have to watch the YouTube videos that say, the ending of the perfection explained?
Oh, I know, right?
Because that video already exists. I saw it earlier today when I was looking for the trailer.
Wait, what needs to be... Whatever.
I know. Like,
okay.
Just watch the movie. The movie literally explains it. You don't need a YouTube video unless you don't plan on watching the movie. I hate society.
So this elicited a cheer out of me, and maybe that's problematic. And I get that. Like,
No, because if you look at this as a rape revenge film, I mean, really, the film is not doing its job properly if you don't cheer. Like, if you don't cheer on the success of their revenge.
We discussed this before, though. That's the inherent quote-unquote problem with rape revenge films, is that you are cheering on violence against rapists who, while they are rapists, they are still human beings. And you are promoting...
No, that is not the problem that people have with rape revenge films, Trace. The thing that they don't like is that you have to see... You have to put your female characters or your victims of sexual assault characters through the rape to get to the satisfaction of the revenge. In this one, we don't see the rape. We only hear about it, which I think is one of the strategies that it has for off-putting the negativity of that. So really all we get is the talk of the rape, and then we get the satisfaction of the revenge.
I agree with you about that. But I have also read critiques where it's been like, oh, well, she is degrading herself to the same level that these rapists are by becoming a murderer.
Oh, God. You could say that about every fucking final girl.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
are you reading this from people who don't know or like horror films?
Well, no. Yes, sometimes.
Because I discount those people's opinions regularly.
I totally get that, but I think they're worth addressing because, whatever.
I'm not discounting your willingness to bring it up, but I think honestly, you could argue that means that no one should ever fight back against someone in a horror film, which is ridiculous. That would be a ridiculous thing to say.
100%. And so, but yeah, the moment when like, okay, you realize what's going on between them, I was like, fuck yes.
Yeah.
Do it. Give it to me. And there's like 10 minutes left in the movie at this point.
Yeah, this is when we move into part 4, Duet. It's the shortest of all of the sections. And it's really just, okay, let's see how this plays out.
And it's actually, because you don't even see Paloma get stabbed. She just walks in the room not saying anything, which, okay, that to me was the most...
It's a little underwhelming.
No, but the most unbelievable part of the movie, because I'm like, look, if I'm stabbed, I don't care what it is. I'm going to be like, Anton, these bitches stabbed me!
I do like that Lizzie just explains it away by saying, oh, she's really drugged up. Or maybe Charlotte says that, but...
Oh,
like,
right.
Oh, she didn't even feel it. She's so drugged up. You're like, but would she also completely not even understand? Like,
yeah.
I thought they were holding her at gunpoint.
Well, and and this is actually a really good bit of editing prowess, and honestly on Shepard's part too, for filmmaking, because it's clear they didn't have the budget for a fight scene.
No. Because
they show the whole fight scene just through Charlotte's, like by pointing at Charlotte's face, and she goes into like a fugue state.
Yeah, it was an interesting creative decision. I liked that. I didn't like the cutaways to her as a young child escaping into the sunny yard.
Right.
It was a little too on the nose metaphorical for me.
I mean, again, they just didn't have the money to show a fight scene.
Yeah, no, I like this creative decision, though, because I don't need to see another generic fight scene. This was more visually interesting, and then you still get some of that satisfaction of seeing, presumably, a couple of blows land, and then it just immediately goes into these final stunning shots.
Wait. You are forgetting when he stabs her arm.
Oh my god.
And
Can we talk about that practical effect? Is it?
I think it's CGI.
I think it's practical.
I mean, either way, but here's the thing. I thought it looked good.
I definitely yelped and was like,
It's really hard to watch. Yeah, he shoves the knife through her wrist and then like drags it down.
The elbow. Oh my god.
Yes.
Yes. If you were a gorehound, it's very again,
this
not a good thing, but it's so satisfying.
This movie's not that gory. This movie visually isn't that disgusting, minus the maggots, minus that thing.
It's really that. Yeah. It's the maggots, the bad CGI spiders, and then this.
Because you don't even see Logan Browning cut her arm off. Like, it's just like left there later.
Yeah. Which I think is the wiser decision.
Yeah. And it's great. So yeah, then we have the final tableau.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so great.
Oh, we also forgot to talk about how Charlotte randomly does a wig reveal.
Oh.
I was like, I appreciate that you're saying like this is how much time has passed since she was institutionalized and she got her head
like it's very recent. It's
electroshock.
very recent.
I appreciated that, but I was just like,
did we need that?
It was a little too Kimberly from Melrose Place pulling.
Yes. Oh wait. Okay, so I have never seen Melrose Place, but I know exactly what you're talking about. So
infamous, yeah.
Listeners, Melrose Place was a very popular soap opera in the mid-90s. And if you watch Desperate Housewives, it was Brie Vandekamp, aka Marsha Cross.
Yeah.
And she played a character, I don't know what the fuck she did, but basically in an episode, she infamously was staring at herself in the mirror and removed her hair wig.
Yeah.
And like revealed a bunch of scars in her head because I guess she had brain surgery or something because she was insane.
Yeah.
Anyway, diversion. But
yeah, sorry for that. I loved it that she was like, this short hair, I go even shorter. Yeah.
It doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, it makes sense because okay, cool. She just got a loony bin. Like, great.
Yeah.
Because they keep cutting to her getting electroshock therapy and getting the hair shaved off, whatever. But yeah, so then it cuts to Steven Weber. And he's just dismembered.
Yeah, we're down in the chapel. He's still alive, which was the other thing. I was like, they whacked him with that fireplace poker so many times, but apparently his head is still okay. But yeah, so he has no arms and no legs, and he's hooked up to an IV.
Yeah, and his eyes and mouth are sewn shut.
Okay, that would make sense.
But his ears are still there.
I almost want to go back. So I didn't actually notice that his eyes and mouth were sewn shut because I was too busy looking at the arms and legs because I was like, oh, we're into boxing Helena territory. Cool. Yeah. Or maybe some American Mary territory. Oh gosh, we're just doing spoilers everywhere.
I understand both your references, so it's fine.
I did also like how this makes absolutely no sense because neither one of them are surgeons and they both do not have an arm that works. But presumably a bunch of time has passed because Charlotte's arm has been completely amputated by this point as well.
Also, they have Google at their fingertips. They can Google tourniquets.
I don't think that that's going to allow you to figure out how to keep someone alive after
I
chopping
know,
off
I
all
was joking. But again, like you're already in a heightened reality in this film. It's fine. Like, if you haven't bought into the narrative at this point, like...
Well, I think this to me is like, oh, yes, from the people who brought you Ringer, because it's camp, it's ridiculous, it's just the perfect synthesis of all the ridiculous, over-the-top, heightened melodrama aspects of this film, perfectly encapsulated in these two shots, right? So we've got Steven Weber completely fucked up, but apparently still alive, able to hear. And then we've got Charlotte and Lizzie, who can now come together to perfectly play their cello piece with their single remaining arms each.
They're acting as one person using using their hands in place of the other person's hands.
Yeah, which visually looks amazing. I mean, they're also like a ball gown up, they're looking flawless, but it's a perfect payoff to this idea that we saw at the beginning, which is they're coming together as a union, as a duet. The whole film has been building to them.
It's so good.
Yeah, it's very, very satisfying in that regard.
This movie as a whole is very satisfying.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just great. Thematically, narratively, it all plays out. Like, it's great.
So one final interesting tidbit about this is I'm not sure if it happened I wasn't paying attention, but in the interview, Shepard talks about how he had to fight with Netflix on one issue. And it's actually that he wanted to allow the credits to play without disappearing into the little box and them doing the like coming up next or like click here to watch something else kind of deal.
Oh.
So he negotiated to apparently allow the entirety of the main credits. So I think before it goes to the cast in alphabetical order, it's about 1 minute of extra playtime filling the screen. And he negotiated that so that people would have an opportunity to calm down and process what they had seen.
That is awesome.
Yeah. Because Netflix is typically like, oh, you know, the credits are rolling. We're going to lose people. We need to get them onto the whatever it is that they're going to watch next.
Right.
It's an interesting concept, right? Because when you see a movie in a theater, if you want to, you can just sit there and think about what you've watched for, you know, upwards of 3 to 5 minutes.
It's interesting though, because I see people that get up like during the last scene and they're standing there like in the hallway, like watching the movie. And like as soon as the credits roll, they just walk out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Whereas I'm like, I like to sit there and just like kind of like enjoy myself and like rest for a bit after a movie ends.
Yeah. You've got to zip up your pants. I mean, my God.
Yeah,
No.
absolutely. I just agreed to that for a second. So, I mean, that's the perfection.
It's the perfection.
What is your final score for this movie? I'm guessing a 4.
I'm somewhere between a 4 and a 4.5. This was actually a really hard discussion to do today because I'm so used to being able to just gather my thoughts and think about it. So I watched the film. I had a quick chat with Brian. I went to the gym and tried to think about it as I was working out because it calms me down and just allows me to process.
We know you work out. God
I'm
damn
so
it.
buff, but it made me appreciate why people have been talking this film up for so long since Fantastic Fest, because I really do think, like it or hate it, this is going to be a film that people talk about, that they want to go back, they want to revisit, they want to watch certain scenes again. Like, it's a film that gets in under your skin because it's so interesting and unique.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I mean, again, this is a movie that no one really cared to go see at Fantastic Fest, and you walk out and like, I mean, seeing this in a theater, you could feel everyone's responses in that theater. It was amazing. It was so fun to be around.
Well, I've been enjoying watching it on Twitter, which I guess is the 21st century version of that, since we don't get to watch it collectively
Live
now.
tweets, yeah.
Just watching people saying, you know, I mean, I sent you a dismissively tweeted piece where somebody was like, I'm 32 minutes into this movie and I have no fucking idea what's going to happen next. And part of me was like, bitch, maybe don't tweet during the movie and just watch it and experience it. But it's also the kind of thing where you do kind of want to be like, what did I just see? Like, I need to pause it and I need to tell people, like, what the fuck is happening in this film? People need to watch it. Like,
absolutely.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it's received. I think there's going to be a big groundswell, and then I think it's going to get the Hereditary, The Witch treatment, and people are going to be like, oh, it's not that interesting. I didn't really think it was that innovative or whatever. And then it'll come back around.
Fuck those people.
Yeah.
If you watch this movie and you can be like, I saw that coming, you're wrong.
Yeah. Maybe you can see that Allison Williams is playing Lizzie early on. I would say that really is the only maybe predictable thing in the film.
Yeah.
I did want to come back one final thing.
Mm-hmm.
At the top, at the very, very top, you talked about what it was like to be able to see this in a theater full of people, and you've been talking about it throughout, just getting to experience people's reactions and how the word of mouth spread. I agree that watching this with an audience would be amazing, but I don't think this film would succeed if it went theatrical.
No, I agree. This isn't a movie that...
I don't think it appeals to a wide enough audience. It's too weird.
But I think for our horror community, it does. Like, I think a lot of people that, like, a lot of the cynical commenters we get about disgusting, I think will enjoy this movie.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
Yeah.
In case people don't know, Bloody Disgusting readers can be a little tempestuous, a little selective in what they like and don't like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I get that, but we'll see. I don't know.
I think that'll be one of the most interesting things is, does it work for people in the short term? And then what does the legacy look like? Will it be embraced at the end of the year as one of the big breakout hits, something that we're all still talking about? Or will it be flash in the pan, like after this weekend, we're all going to be talking about Ma? I don't know.
at a festival, I always get worried. I'm like, fuck, like, am I the weird one that's like, I loved this and no one else is going to get it?
Or you're riding the festival high and you can't trust your own opinion anymore.
No, for sure. And so our editor, Brad Miska, a couple months ago, because he got an advanced screener of this movie from somebody at Netflix, and he messaged me about it, and I was like, oh, fuck, he's not going to like it. And then he was like, oh, no, it's in my top 10. Like, it's gonna make my top 10 of the year, without a doubt. And I was like, oh, thank God. Like, because you're writing for a site. If you have a 5 out of 5, that's like a big thing. So I obviously want to accurately represent the site, but it's like, this movie's awesome. So whatever.
Yeah, no, it is. It's 100% awesome. I can't imagine people have listened to us talk about it if they haven't seen it. But if you haven't, I mean, obviously, go check it out.
Yeah.
And if you have seen it, then we obviously want to hear your thoughts about it.
Yes.
What kinds of things do we want to hear people talk to us about?
Let us know your experience watching this movie. Did you like it or did you not? Are we insane? Are we overhyping this movie? Is there such a thing as overhype with a movie like this? I don't know. Let us know your experience.
Yeah, just tell us what your experience was like. How did you watch it? What were the highs, the lows? Did you see things coming?
What predictions of yours came true? What did you see coming? What did you not see coming? I'm actually curious about that.
Yeah.
And be honest. Like, I mean, again, I didn't see most of the shit coming. And it doesn't mean I'm stupid. It just means that I'm along for the ride. So don't be like, I knew everything was coming. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, so I guess until next week, we can cross out the perfection.
And cross out Horror Queer's Patreon.
Woohoo.
Bloody Disgusting Podcast Network, home of creepy, disturbing, and terrifying creepypastas, SCP archives, weekly full cast storytelling, the horror queers, genre commentary from an LGBTQ perspective, and the Boo Crew. For horror-centric interviews, listen free wherever you stream audio and at bloodydisgusting.com/podcasts.
Get in, losers. This is the Lady Killers, a Feminine Rage podcast. I'm Jen.
I'm Sammy.
I'm Rocco.
And I'm May. Our podcast is a tribute to the female-identifying killers in horror and more.
Each episode will feature us, your Supreme Court of female murderers, discussing our favorite lady killers, from your Julias and Jennifers to your Carries and Christines.
We'll tell her story, decide if it's good for her horror, and answer the most important question of all. Would we die for her?
Join us on Thursdays as we pull on our sweaters, snatch our ice picks, sharpen our scissors, and honor the lady killers who live on the silver screen.
No boys were harmed in the making of this podcast.
Yet.
It was late in the afternoon when the professor and I took our way towards the east, whence I knew Jonathan was coming.
Jonathan Harker has asked me to note this, as he says he is hardly equal to the task, and he wants an exact record kept.
Dear Madam Mina, I have read your husband's so wonderful diary. Strange and terrible as it is true. I will pledge my life on it.
God preserve my sanity, for to this I am reduced. Safety and the assurance of safety are things of the past.
I am in hopes that I shall see more of you at Castle Dracula.
Listen to Regarding Dracula wherever you listen to podcasts, or find us online at bloody.fm.